Hello and welcome to a Theme Park Worldwide news update. Now yesterday the Alton Towers Resort updated their website with some more information about the plans that they're putting into place ready for when they are allowed to reopen, and that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Now last week I filmed a video about Merlin Entertainment, of course the company that own Alton Towers, about all of their different plans that they're going to be putting into place at their attractions around the world. However, we've now got the full details from Alton Towers, and some of the things here you're going to recognise from that video, and other things we've now got confirmation on that are going to be happening at Alton Towers. Whereas before, with it being the wider sort of Merlin Entertainment's announcements, we weren't too sure exactly which ones were going to apply to Alton Towers, and with them being a global company, some rules and restrictions are going to be different at parks and attractions around the world. But yesterday, Alton Towers updated the website, and we've now got our first look at what exactly they are going to be doing for when they reopen. Now, Jonathan Ellis has released this statement on the Alton Towers website. He's the Health and Safety Director, and he's been working along with the other teams and management at Alton Towers just to put this plan together into place. Now, of course, they've been reviewing the entire operation. Something like a theme park and resort like Alton Towers is such a big thing to manage. You've got to think, you know, you've got the theme park, but then you've got the water park, the hotels, the golf, the spa. There's so much there. There really is. So I imagine, you know, there's some big plans going on at the moment for all of them individual attractions, all that form part of the Alton Towers Resort. But in terms of the theme park, and we've also got some information about the accommodation to share with you in this update, that's all come officially from Alton Towers yesterday. So it all goes across 6 different things about how the experience, of course, is going to be very different to what it is normally. But you've got to think the beauty of Alton Towers is that they've got a lot of space. It's a big theme park. It's over 500 acres, the whole site. So they've got a lot more space than a park such as Thorpe Park or Chessington World of Adventures. You know, they've got more space to spread them guests around. So I imagine it's been that little bit easier for them at Alton Towers due to the size of the site, and rides are spread about. You've got these huge walkways and themed areas. So yeah, they're lucky in that respect that they've got a lot of pathways and areas to direct guests and stuff around the park. So let's talk about these then. So we've got 6 different sort of items to talk about here, and the first one is about restricted numbers and advanced booking. So in the wider Merlin Entertainment's announcement, they sort of said how, you know, you might have to book for some things but maybe not for others. Alton Towers have now confirmed that to gain access to the resort you will have to book in advance, and that will be for all guests who are attending. Now they're actually looking at a similar system as to what they do for the fireworks. So even like your Merlin annual pass holders, anybody who's going to that theme park needs to book a ticket. Now there's no word yet on if there'll be a cost to this for annual pass holders. However, I've done a bit of research, and Hyde Park in Germany, that's a Merlin park. What they've done for like annual pass holders is they've actually charged them €1 per reservation to guarantee that. So by all means, we don't know if that's going to be the case here in the UK. That's what they've done at Hyde Park, but I just thought I'd do a bit of research into that to see what they're doing, because you've got to think, if they're opening up to annual pass holders and they can book 10 slots for 10 passes, if they don't turn up, that's 10 spaces more what they could have allowed people in. So if they do put a charge into place, it may stop that. You know, if you've paid even a small amount to reserve a place, it makes you really think twice, doesn't it? It makes you think, you know, oh, shall we book it or not? We don't know if we're going to yet. So I can kind of see why they may have to look at something like that. But what we do know is that advanced booking for everyone will have to take place. The resort have now confirmed there'll be strict limits on initial numbers of guests. So that means a reduced capacity. We don't know what that is yet. However, Alton Towers, you know, on the big fireworks days can have upwards of 27,000 people. We're going to be seeing nowhere near that number. You know, I imagine we're going to be less than 10,000, or at least initially, before they can start to increase that. Probably really low numbers. And if things, you know, are going well for them and people are following the rules and the restrictions are going well, they may be able to increase that capacity. I know that's something what Europa Park in Germany are doing when they reopen this week. They're starting off with a very, very low number, even though they've actually got permission to open up to 30,000. They're starting at a low number, and then they're going to gradually increase it if things are going as planned, you know, because this is a big change, a big operational change that, you know, no one's used to, no one's done before. And both from the park and guests and employees' point of view, you know, nobody fully knows how to deal with it until it's actually in place. And there's people walking around there. You don't know what problems are going to arise. So, but yeah, we know there's going to be an online booking system similar to what they do for the firework events, you know, which is perfectly understandable. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the million annual passes. I know a lot of people in the comments have been interested. We don't know officially yet, but yeah, I imagine we'll see something like that, you know, possibly a charge that will go into place for annual pass holders. On with that one as well, in terms of when you're actually in Alton Towers, you may have to sort of reserve individual attractions. They've not gone into too much detail yet, but they've said individual attractions and facilities within the resort may also be one of those that are limited and you have to, you know, of course, book onto. So I imagine we'll find out more about that in the coming weeks as we get closer and closer to when Alton Towers gets the go-ahead from the UK government to be able to reopen. On to the second part of this then, and that's all about temperature checks and health monitoring. Now, I was speaking about this from the larger Merlin Entertainment's announcement last week, and this is exactly what we was expecting. You will have to have your temperature checked to gain access to Alton Towers. Of course, you know, if you feel like you're not very well, you shouldn't be going in the first place. Protect yourself, protect others, and of course, the employees that are there, you know, every single day, them employees are going to be there. If you're going there and you've got a cough or you're feeling ill or a high temperature, you shouldn't be going. So, but say people who have got a temperature have decided to go and they've had the temperature checked, they will not be allowed in if it's over a certain level. We don't know what that level is going to be set at yet. However, if it is over that, whatever they decide, then you won't be allowed entry into Alton Towers. And of course, they'll have to send you away. However, they'll let you change your booking for a later date at no charge if you are sent away. But obviously it's not ideal. If you've drove a long way, you get there and then you turned away. It's not ideal. So the main thing is make sure that you are feeling fine before you travel out. Even if you booked a ticket for in a few weeks and you think, oh, I'm feeling fine on the day that you're going to go, but actually you're not, then you want to make sure that you check in before you actually make the journey, you know, for that one, so you don't get turned away at the entrance. But of course, it's all about protecting everybody there. You know, it's protecting the employees, protecting the other guests, and yourselves. You know, if everybody follows these rules, then it keeps everybody safe, doesn't it? Or at least it helps keep everybody safe. So yeah, with that one, all staff are also going to undergo temperature checks at the resort. So it's not just a matter of them making the guests do it. Everybody who's on that site on that day will have had their temperature checked. Moving on to social distancing, again, something that we were expecting really, but we've now got a few more details from what Alton Towers plan to do. They've openly said that they're a large park with lots of space, large pathways and areas, which is great. You know, we know that the size of Alton Towers is going to be a big plus point to this. The fact that social distancing will be easier at a park like Alton Towers compared to some of the smaller parks. Blackpool Pleasure Beach, for example, it's a tiny site, so, you know, it's going to be harder and their numbers will be more limited, whereas with Alton Towers, they can sort of expand on that a bit more with the size of the site. But yeah, there's going to be markers in place at key areas where people wait, including the admissions plaza, so all of your kiosks and turnstiles, there'll be all the markers in place for social distancing. All queue lines for rides and attractions, all retail outlets and food outlets, and also in the hotel communal areas and toilets, there will be social distancing taking place. So as expected really, but we now know more about the hotel situation there, communal areas. So I imagine we'll see in Alton Towers Hotel, Splash Landings, Margarita's Bar, they'll be changing all the seating, and you know, it's going to be a very different atmosphere and a very different place to what it is normally. But I'm sure we can all be thankful that these rules are being put into place and restrictions, because it will help keep everybody safe and protect everybody out there. Now, along with that, they've gone into some more detail about what's going to be happening on the rides themselves. And this is the one that I've been thinking about the most in terms of what are they going to do in terms of checking restraints and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, what the plan is, guests will actually be batched in their family groups. So people from the same household on that ride. So say there's you and your 3 family members there, you'll all be able to sit, you know, next to each other and on the rows near each other because you're all part of that same family or household. And then if you're going as friends, then of course you're going to have to be splitting about because, you know, to follow that social distancing. So that's going to be interesting in terms of capacity, but that's not really something that we're going to have to worry about for now. As much as we all love, you know, when rides are getting them trains out, I love it. I love seeing how quick they can get the trains out. That's gone for now. That isn't something that's the priority. It's more checking that everything's safe, and of course people are following that social distancing, staff and employees and guests as well. So with that one, it's completely understandable. What they're going to be doing is leaving empty rows or seats, depending on what sort of ride it is. But if it's a coaster, for example, they'll leave empty rows between that party and the next party, so just to sort of spread everybody out on the train. So as expected, really, with that one. There's a little bit more on what they're going to be doing in terms of checking the restraints coming up shortly in this news update. They're also going to be limiting the number of guests that can attend the shows to maintain social distancing. Again, shows isn't a huge part of Alton Towers, but they have got them in CBeebies land. Again, that's a lovely big open outdoor area. It's not an indoor theatre. It's perfectly designed. There's not even seating. It's just all floor and a really nice grass area for big fun show time. So I imagine they'll mark areas off around there for any shows that are going to be taking place with that one. But yeah, overall, like I say, it's a large site, so I imagine that'll be an easier one for them to do in terms of the social distancing. It'll just be a little bit harder in ride stations and in air gates and that sort of thing, so that'll be certainly one to really look at. On to enhanced hygiene now, what's going to be taking place throughout the resort. They're installing dozens and dozens of hand sanitizer dispensers around the resort, which is good. I think that's something that we were expecting anyway, to be honest, but we now know that there's going to be dozens of them everywhere, including at the entry and exit points for most rides and attractions. So I imagine before you go out into a coaster station, you know, you'll use a hand sanitizer, and when you come off, you'll have it there to use as well. Now, of course, along with that as well, the teams at the resort are going to be wiping down all the different points that are touched frequently at regular intervals throughout the day. So this might possibly mean rides are having to stop for brief periods of time whilst they clean them and wipe them down. Again, that's understandable. That's what we was expecting with this one. Now, onto protective clothing. Now, all staff, all employees at the park will be provided with masks, gloves and other PPE to protect them and of course the guests during their visit. However, this is quite an interesting one. Guests can actually decide whether they want to wear face masks or not. It's not going to be mandatory. It's not going to be something that you have to wear whilst you're going round. And that's certainly something that I wasn't expecting. I thought they may have made it that you have to wear face masks when you're going round to protect everybody. Like, the way I see it is if everybody was wearing a mask, you know, it's helping everybody, isn't it? Whereas now it is one of those where it's optional. So it's certainly an interesting decision. However, yes, it is a big site. Like I say, it might be different at other theme parks that are smaller. The fact that Alton Towers is large, it's a big open space, I can see where they're coming from. However, if you do want to wear masks, then you are more entitled to. Normally you can't wear any sort of face coverings at Alton Towers. They don't allow it anyway, but they have changed that rule, of course, for this. You can wear face masks, and the best of it all is they're actually going to be making some new themed masks about the park, about the resort, so different ride masks and that sort of thing. So that'll be quite cool, won't it, to have them masks as, you know, and it's a good way of getting the kids to wear them, for example, as well, in terms of, you know, if you can have one with maybe CBeebies land on or something like that, then yeah, it's a way of thinking, yeah, they're more of a, yes, they're protecting people, but they're also turning into more of a fashion statement as well, which, you know, in my opinion, I don't see a problem with that. If it's making people wear them, then that's fine. But it's certainly something that here at Theme Park Worldwide we'll be making our decision on. As it's looking at the moment, when Alton Towers reopens, me and the guys at Theme Park Worldwide will most likely be wearing masks. We're going to be doing a lot of travelling back round to theme parks again, and I think it's our duty really to be wearing masks and protecting people, especially when we're in indoor areas and queue lines, possibly in a big open space on the lawns or something like that, maybe not. But yeah, with masks, it is going to be one of them things that you can decide on yourself. You don't have to wear them all the way round, whereas some theme parks are making that a rule. Europa Park in Germany, other theme parks in Europe, Shanghai Disney, the Disney parks in America have announced their opening dates and you've got to wear masks. Same with Universal. So it's certainly a very interesting move, that one, and it is something that may change. The resort have only said this is what's happening at the moment. That could change, but as it stands, you won't have to wear a mask to visit Alton Towers when it reopens. It will be optional. But if you want to get some nice branded ones, why not? Blackpool Pleasure Beach are doing the branded ones as well. We don't know what's going to be, if it's going to be mandatory or not to wear them there yet, but they are going to do some custom ones as well, which is nice. They're actually on the website available to purchase. So yeah, that's something else that, you know, that they're looking at. Now, of course, there's going to be some unavoidable situations, such as check-in ride harnesses, where employees, it's pretty much impossible to stay 2 meters apart. So what they're actually looking at is wearing full protective equipment for when they're checking the harnesses. So I thought maybe they may have gone down the system of creating some sort of tool to check the restraints like they have done at parks in mainland Europe. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be what they're going to do. They're going to kit the teams out in full protective gear to check the restraints. And of course, they're going to come close to the guests whilst they're doing that, but they'll be in full protective equipment. So, you know, again, that's something that we've now got confirmation of, and we know that they're going to be doing it. So again, it's going to help keep them staff protective. Can't help but feel that it would be better in that situation if the guests on the train were wearing masks. However, that's something that, you know, at the moment isn't what's going to be the case, but that may change going forward. So, you know, the way I see it is really, you know, if the employees are wearing all this full PPE, really, and they're coming close checking harnesses and stuff, it would have been better for the guests, for the employees, if the guests were wearing them too. But you know, that's just my opinion, that's my thoughts. And with this, everyone's got different thoughts and opinions, and it's really important to respect other people's thoughts and opinions, especially down in the video comments. Nobody knows the situation at the moment. We're just filming this as we go, and who knows what's going to happen. Who knows when Alton Towers is going to open. But with all this coming out and with government guidelines changing, I don't think we're too far away now from being able to step back in and the gates swinging back open to Alton Towers. Now finally, staff training. They're actually put together some new COVID-19 training for resort employees. So they've told us about that, just of course a way of making us feel like, you know, they're doing so much behind the scenes. So that's good to know. Of course, I know a lot of employees at Alton Towers. I used to be one myself. I know they've got a good training team there. So I imagine that's something what they're going to be working on in the coming weeks as they prepare to reopen. In terms of when that opening date is coming, we don't know at the moment. The government moving into different stages with the plan here in the United Kingdom. It seems every country around the world has got different ways of dealing with it. Ours at the moment is going through these different stages. We know that next month, the middle of next month, all shops will be back open. That's a positive start. After that, I imagine it'll move more into leisure, so we could be seeing the theme parks opening then. I said it in a previous video last week. I think we may be looking at some point in July for the parks to open. I think they may get the go-ahead early July. Whether they'll be in a position to open early July or not, who knows? They may have to continue with that staff training and getting the park prepared before they can. But you've got to think the summer holidays are coming up the end of July. You know, they're going to want it open for then, aren't they? That's the way I see it. So be realistic. It might not be the start of July. It could be a little bit later on. But it could be the 4th of July when, you know, the government move into that next phase. Who knows? But yeah, at the moment, you know, the Alton Towers have said that they're going to be staying closed until the government says it's safe to reopen, as expected, really. And they've also said it's not short-term measures, but as the new normal way that they'll operate it. It's like they've been watching these videos, isn't it? For the past few weeks have been saying this will be the new normal, but they've said it in their official statement. This is the new normal that they'll operate until such a time as health risks of COVID-19 are fully addressed. So there we go. That's all the information we know so far. Some of the things that have interested me the most from all of that, and the big points that you know to discuss really. Masks. You know, do you agree with that? Do you not? Do you think that it's a good move what they've gone for, or should they be making everybody wear them? Me personally, I think I'll be taking it into my own hands to wear them because I've been an employee there. I know how close you can get to guests, and you know, I think I'd feel more confident protecting other people wearing a mask, especially with how much travelling I'm going to be doing to these theme parks when they reopen. So I think that's, you know, something that I should be doing, and people from theme park worldwide definitely. But yeah, going sort of forward with other things, the whole pre-booking situation, that's understandable. We now know that you will have to pre-book. We know it 100%. With the Merlin announcement, we didn't know exactly on what was going to be happening. We now know that that is the case, but we don't fully know for Merlin passes yet how that's going to work, or if there'll be a charge in place. But yeah, they're the main things really. Oh, and of course, you know, the fact that we know in terms of they're looking at full protective gear for the employees, checking harnesses. They're not going to look at other ways of checking them. So they're the big things to take from this, but it's positive news coming out. Alton Towers is going to reopen. Yes, it's going to be a completely different experience to what anybody could have imagined, but you've got to think, you know, the way things are going at the moment, it's important that all these rules are put out there. It puts guests at ease and they can start moving forward with their opening plan as soon as the government's given them that permission to do so. We're going to be grateful really, because a lot of us thought that maybe theme parks may have been a write-off here in the UK until next year, until 2021. But with all these plans going into place, it does seem like we might be getting a summer and the rest of the season to enjoy our theme parks. And it might be a completely different experience, but the parks are going to reopen. And when they do, we'll be first to tell you here at Theme Park Worldwide. But thank you very much for all of your support. I really appreciate it. Stay safe, everybody, and I'll keep you up to date with all the latest news as always. Thank you very much for watching, and that means it's time to cue those credits. See you all soon.